First of all, most people recognize or understand that the United States government attacked me, my home, this actual building that I'm standing in now, indicted me, 3 other persons who are associated with our African People's Socialist Party and our movement. Or they did not indict it, they indicted a Russian national who was in Russia. But they said that the 4 of us are unindicted co-conspirators, that we were employed by the Russian government to carry out certain tasks, which included a participation in elections in 2017 and 2019. As it has already been stated, that these elections were the one that, for the first time in the history of this country, put the issue of reparations on the ballot, actually made it a campaign issue. And these campaigns were responsible for the first time. This person, Barack Hussein Obama, who as president had never involved himself in local elections, coming out endorsing our opponents. And so it's important to we talk about this school on today and its significance, because the school, our participation in the elections is part of the basis that has been put forward for the indictment of me, 3 other persons in the attack on our movement. And the fact is, on July 2nd, many people recognize what happened on July 29th when they attacked my home, threatened me, my wife, used flashbang grenades, used armored vehicles, used loudspeakers, shut down the whole community, actually made it necessary for people to show them ID to come to and leave their homes. Many people know something about that, but 27 days before that, right here in this building, that was in St. Louis when they attacked my home there. They also attacked my house here in St. Petersburg, Florida, because I've moved to St. Louis, but there was nobody there, but you would have seen, you may have seen this army of FBI agents who came to my home there. An army of FBI agents who attacked this building right here. Using, as I said, part of the excuse for that, that it was the Russians who employed us, that somehow we've created some kind of fraud against the United States government because we're working for the Russians. And so that the reparations demand, the elections that we involved in is what they are putting forward. On that day, 27 days prior, at this very building right here, there's a 50-foot flagpole outside. And there's a 15 by 25-foot red, black, and green flying proudly on that flagpole. And on July 2nd, right before the 4th of July, obviously, that was being put forth as this very patriotic moment in history at this critical time. Someone pulled up in broad daylight in a vehicle right out there. It was captured on our security cameras and what have you. And he opened the trunk of his car and pulled from the trunk of his car a military-grade flamethrower. Not a barbecue starter lighter, but a flamethrower, and actually torched the red, black, and green flag out there. And the police came, the FBI came, Homeland Security came, and they said that the person didn't actually commit arson, but it was some kind of how did they characterize it? Mischief, some kind of mischief, criminal mischief. I'm saying that they came on July 2nd here, and that was a run-through for what they would do on July 29th. And one of the reasons they did a run-through was because of what had happened right here on November 13th, 1996, when they attacked this very same building that they came with the flamethrower and met this incredible resistance of the people that shot down a helicopter and chased the cops out of this community. So they did a run through on July 2nd to see what kind of response they were going to be able to get from it. And then they attacked on July 29th. Of course, we didn't know July 2nd what it was. We just knew this person had come out there. We knew the state had to be involved in it. So this person had come out there and torched the flag. So that's one of the things that makes it important for us to say something, for me to say just a few words about that moves away a bit from the presentation that I had initially assumed I would be making. This is the first time we've had a major event here in a while. COVID was a factor. The attack on this building was a factor. The fact is that the United States government made it clear on July 29th that they threatened my life. They used laser targeting devices on automatic weapons to point these laser dots in my chest. They intend to arrest or kill me, either up front, like how they came in the morning on July 29th, or with a prison sentence. Because if they sentence me to prison for what it is that they claim that I have done, it's like a life sentence that they would be. I'm 81 years old, and I'm saying this because I think it's important that for most of my life, I've been doing what I do now. It didn't just start. And the struggle of Black people has been going on even before the birth of V.I. Lenin in Russia, even before the consolidation of this boogeyman Russia that they have created. We've been fighting for our freedom. And I think it's important also to say this, that we founded the African People's Socialist Party in 1972. I came out of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was the organization that put forth the Black Power demand slogan in 1966. Before that, work had been done by some people who are known to some of you in this room, like Afia Mwangaza, who participated in developing what was called the Atlanta Project, where Julian Bond was denied a seat after having been elected in Atlanta, Georgia, because of his opposition to the predatory war that the United States government was making in Vietnam. They're attacking me today because of Ukraine. They wouldn't let Bond be seated because of Vietnam, opposition to Vietnam. He's in the same organization I was in at that time. Afia Mwangaza also was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee as well. They crushed this revolutionary movement that had achieved an extraordinary position in the world. It was a part of a global movement, though many of us were not necessarily conscious of the connection between what we were doing and what was happening in Vietnam, other than we didn't like what they were doing to the Vietnamese people. As Muhammad Ali said, ain't no Vietnamese ever called me nigger, right? Nor Russian for that matter. But the fact is that this was the kind of situation that we were, came into, and we had as a primary objective when we founded the African People's Socialist Party to complete that Black revolution. That revolution was not saying hands off, don't shoot, hands up, don't shoot. It was not saying Black Lives Matter. It was a revolutionary moment where peoples around the world had come together on different forums, starting in the 1950s with the Bandung Conference. And Bandung Conference, no accident that Bandung Conference happened in 1955, the same year of what? Montgomery bus boycott. It's no accident that you see the struggle of Black people and oppressed people all around the world occurring at the same time. There's a reason for that, though we were not necessarily conscious of it at that time. So we had this movement around the world that continued to develop, and that we saw the critical demand was for power. When Black people in 1966 said Black power in this country, when SNCC said Black power in this country, whether independent of what our consciousness was about what it meant, what it really meant was that the struggle in this country had united with the struggle of other peoples around the world, because when you say we want power, that's an anti-colonial demand, as opposed to an anti-racist demand. We want to make the white people like us. What kind of movement can you have based on making your killers like you? Malcolm was talking about all the time, the right to sit on the toilet next to white people. When you said black power, you were saying the same thing people were saying in Vietnam. You were saying the same thing other oppressed peoples around the world. We want control, power over our own lives. And so that was the movement that we were intent on completing. 1960, was it 62? I think it was, where the conference happened in Havana, Cuba. That brought people from Africa, Asia, and Latin America together, and with a powerful anti-colonial, it was an anti-colonial movement with hundreds of people who came there against colonialism. And even when we look at Bandung, against colonialism and what they call racial discrimination or oppression in, around the world and in this country. That's what was happening in the world. And I think it's really important to say that because that's what got defeated. They didn't just kill Malcolm. They didn't just kill King and the other people. The objective of that was to kill them and kill the ideas and replace them and the ideas with some other ideas and some other people who would take us some other places. That's what that was about. So by the time that we fought for the right to get elected, they said the Russians are responsible for our my participation in elections. I would tell you that I organized in Madison, Florida, in Alachua County Jail. In Madison, the white people tried to kill me, and Madison and Alachua County in Gainesville, they were going to put me in jail for registering black people to vote. A point I would make is it didn't take Russians to get us to get people to register, that nobody in this country has paid the price for the right to vote that black people have paid without ever hearing from a single Russian at all. We did that. Black people did that. They killed us. They killed us for the right to vote. But by the time in 1965, and I'm part of the movement that made it happen when the Voting Right Bill Act was passed in 1965. But you see, what else happened in 1965 of great significance to us? Assassination of Malcolm X, right? And shortly after that, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. Shortly after that, the assassination of Fred Hampton, Mark Clark. They were killing us all around the damn country. So by the time you could vote, you didn't have nobody to vote for. They had destroyed the organizations, they had killed the leaders and destroyed the programs. And so the only thing you have is a Democratic Party. That becomes our program. And the African People's Socialist Party is a revolutionary organization. And we were founded to do what? To complete the revolution of the 1960s, not just to accept this stuff that we had inherited from this moment, to complete that revolution. And that revolution was not completed by simply running around just talking simply about the right to vote, or the right to have some kind of freedom within the social system, but to disengage, to free ourselves, because colonialism is a parasitic system. It cannot coexist with free people. Freedom has always been illegal for black people. Think about it. People come to this country looking for freedom, a better way of life. We came to this country at gunpoint, and we lost a better way of life and created one for others who came here looking for a way to be free. So it has never been legal for black people to be free. And that's something that we really have to understand. Ever since we have been here, we've been fighting for what some model come of what we call freedom. There's never been a time where we weren't. Never been a time where we weren't. So this notion that somehow the Russians got us to fight for freedom is a criminal charge in the first place, and it's based on racist assumptions that the government promotes and that white people, generally speaking, have. That somehow it takes somebody who they call white to tell us that we're oppressed and to show us our way to freedom. This is the logic behind that. So I just want to say this. So our objective was to complete the Black Revolution of the 60s. Malcolm did, Martin did, Lumumba did, and Nkrumah did. They're killing us, and Che Guevara did. On my birthday, 1967, after they wounded him, captured him, and then murdered him. So this is the reality. This is what we inherited. And we said we're going to complete that revolution. But what has happened now is that the movement has been dispersed. The movement, the organization's destroyed for the most part. Membership scattered. The politic undermined, slandered. So it's not even appropriate to talk about Black power anymore. You can't even say black, 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 black. You can't even say black anymore. You can't say African anymore. This is the kind of politic that we inherited. If you're not what they characterize as some kind of internationalist, that ain't got nothing to do with us. Their internationalism is the same kind of internationalism that was enjoyed by the Nazis. But by that, I mean, I'm talking about the Nazis call themselves socialists too. Did you know that? The National Socialists, that's National Socialism is what most of us, the so-called left, has practiced in this country. That's why they've never been able to fight for us. That's why they're always crying, or have always cried, that they are opposed to this war, that war. More Africans were opposed to Vietnam than white people, but it was white people out there against the war in Vietnam. Why? Because the Vietnamese had given them political education. Where? In Vietnam. Because they started sending body bags. They learned how to count body bags that the Vietnamese sent them, and the parents no longer wanted them to go, and they didn't want to go to Vietnam either because they met a horrible fate at the hands of a people who wanted to be free. Vietnam is something that's really important in terms of understanding the whole issue of colonialism and the struggle against colonialism. The vast majority of the people, something like 71% of the troops, of French troops, who fought against to keep the Vietnamese enslaved under French colonialism, 71% of them were colonized themselves. They're from Algeria, they're from other colonial countries as well. And when the US took over that war after Dien Bien Phu in 1954, and the Vietnamese Revolution crushed the French there, when the US took over that war, something from 50 to 64% of the troops from this country who were on the front lines were Black people, colonized Africans here. We colonized, they colonized. But Muhammad was right. Ain't no Vietnamese ever called me nigger. Right. He was able to say, I am not going to Vietnam to fight a yellow man. As a Black man, I'm not going there to fight the yellow man for the white man. This is what we understood at that time, and they assassinated people. They took us off, and they pumped up these Negroes as a part of a counterinsurgency war against us. So now they've destroyed the leadership, the organization that would participate in the electoral process, and then they put these Negroes out there. They're the ones who now, these were people who were opposed to Black power. I'm telling you, they were opposed to Black power when we were fighting for it and at the barricades and stuff like that. They're the ones who got pumped up and then put into office around this country. And part of their program was anti-Black power. You had people coming from the Southern Christian leadership, Jesse Jackal, and some of the others who are talking about green power, soul power, anything but Black power. They didn't want nothing to do with Black power, but that's the solution. And so we began to try to solve these problems. But to solve the problem meant a lot of things. Revolutionary forces scattered. How you bringing people back together? We got a lot of people doing great work in different places, but it's not connected. Not only is it not connected practically, but ideologically, we're confused. There was no ideological coherence at all in this movement. So we began doing certain things to try to give it some ideological coherence, to bring the movements back together on an anti-colonial trajectory. In the process of doing that, we built the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement in 1980 something. And this movement was to pull whomever we could pull together, because Black people, after the military defeat, the masses of our people were demoralized. You're talking about revolution. They remember revolution. They remember tanks in the streets in this country. It didn't just start with this program, whatever it's called, that they used at the Pentagon. It didn't just start. They had tanks in the street right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. They called it the monster, that they would drive throughout this community to put down protests and things like that. And that's what people remember. People remember tanks, military forces in our community throughout this country. You say something, they remember assassinations all over the place. And you say something about, let's get organized, let's make this revolution. People say, revolution, hell. The last thing they remember, every time they say, every time they get a leader, they kill him. Remember that? Every time you get a leader, they kill him. People demoralized. So you couldn't win people right away to revolution. So how do you bring people into political action, political activity, political motion around the things that affect them in their daily lives? And this is how colonialism functions. It functions because they kill the merchants in your community and put in other people so that you remain in a place of permanent dependency. You have to depend on somebody for your food and your clothing. So they put other merchants, drive the merchants out because as quiet as it kept, many of the merchants in our community were patriotic in terms of black patriots. They were patriotic to black people. They might not have been communists or anything like that, but they were patriotic to black people. And black people were having these experiences, what we call the Arabs and all these other white people and coming into our communities. They were ones who set up the enterprises in our communities. And this was, like part of what it is that we were confronted with. And so we had to mobilize the people to be able to fight in our own interests against colonialism. Merchants treated the people bad. Slumlords treated the people bad. Police killing our people. Education dogging our people out in the worst kind of way in the schools. Not only, when you're talking about now the so-called gun school shootings, and they want to act like that's why they put police on the campuses in this country. I'm telling you, when they put police on the campus in this country, integration. When they brought black people onto these campuses, that's where you saw the cops, the so-called student resource officers pop up in these schools to protect the white kids who were going to go and the white professors. And they only integrate these campuses because they were embarrassed internationally, because that was before America had succeeded in destroying the Soviet Union or contributing to its destruction. And so in the international arena, the biggest example that people had of this country was the treatment of black people in this country. Little children trying to vote in Birmingham, who being washed off the streets with high-powered water hoses. Little children being murdered in churches who just participating in meetings so black people could vote. This is the kind of stuff, and the United States was then having to contend with the Soviet Union, China, all these other forces for the loyalty of the peoples around the world about who's got the best system. This is what was going on at that time. And this is the FBI now coming to see me in the 1960s because they claim I must be getting money from China. I got a new patron now, according to them, right? This is the logic, because they recognize the connection of the anti-colonial struggles of the world, even if we didn't understand it. So I just want to say this. We had to pull it together. We had to, the FBI and government had created such a contradiction in our movement, created chaos all over our movement, people killing each other, shooting at each other. There are people who I know who are dead now because of those kinds of contradictions that the FBI, that the federal government imposed on our communities. So now there is no unity, there is no organization. Most of the organizations destroyed, drugs pumped into your community. And even the most illiterate African in the community would tell us all the time, we ain't got no damn ships and airplanes be bringing this stuff in. Where the hell is it coming from? We didn't put it here, but we know who put it here. They've written books about it. They've done all kinds of stuff about who put it here. Africans now, you're supposed to have the drug kingpins bringing in more than $100 billion a year, $100 million a year into this economy. And they said it's some black persons who are the drug kingpins. So now the source of the problem is in the housing projects here. Like every time you become a kingpin, you get some money, you move to the housing projects. I mean, what in the hell is that? And that's how illogical it is. You understand? And the fact is that these Negroes think they're beating the man because they open the door to let them make some money selling dope. But when they get ready, they go, and the only thing they own is the gold that they're wearing, the grill in their face, the rims on the car, and what have you. And when the government wants, they're gonna come and take it all and then take the mama house on top of it. This is how the stuff works, up and down the line. War being initiated against African people. And we think we're the ones who did it. And then you got these intellectual Negroes some of them religious personalities who are saying that the problem somehow is some kind of moral deficit on the part of Black people. So we the problem, et cetera. And this is the stuff that we had to contend with. So the thing that we have initiated for a long time was to try to pull this movement back together, to put it back on a revolutionary trajectory. When I say revolutionary, I'm speaking in broad terms now, because just because someone is against colonialism doesn't mean that they're revolutionary in and of itself. I know people who picked up guns against colonialism and turned out to be the worst tyrants after they achieved what is supposed to be independence. Because even within the struggle against colonialism, even the struggle against national liberation, the class struggle is raging all the time. All the time. You know what I'm talking about. And so we had to rebuild this movement. We had to pull it together, try to give it a collective trajectory, agreed upon trajectory. That's the part. We took a year's project. Was it a year? Certainly it was several months. We traveled throughout this country and pulled together the Black is Back Coalition. And we organized it because we were the group that had the ability to do it. And we were the group that had the ideology, philosophy to do it. When I say ideology and philosophy, what I'm talking about is not just good enough to be against oppression. You got to know where this thing is coming from. What's the basis of it? What's the origin of it? It's not good enough to be against capitalism. What the hell does that mean, I'm against capitalism? I mean, Bernie Sanders act like he's kind of sort of against capitalism. There are people who call themselves democratic socialists, kind of sort of against capitalism, but they're not opposed to capitalism. And how do you know they're not opposed to capitalism? But one reason you know they're not opposed to capitalism because capitalism is a social system. And you can't intrude on this social system without a capacity to replace it. And if you're going to replace it, you got to have the damn organization to do it. You got to have the philosophy to do it. You have to have the will to do it. You have to have the strategy to do it. And if you ain't developing none of that, you ain't serious. I mean, you might be wonderful, but for that to happen, you got to have more than just good intentions. Somebody once said the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So we say, how do we pull this together? And one of the things that we began to learn, we study, we struggle, we study, we struggle. And part of the reason we showed this video early on so that you can see the struggles that's developed, right here in this building, right here. Because we thought we were going to die in this building on November 13th. And your daddy too. Not your daddy. What's your name? Janine what? Say it again. Quarles Atkins. Which Atkins? Where are your parents from? Oh, St. Lucie? Yeah, I organized there, you know. But the thing is that we have to bring some coherence and cohesion back to the movement because it scattered us everywhere. And so the National Black Political Agenda was one of the things. The coalition was one of the things. And central to the coalition was the question of self-determination. That's an anti-colonial demand. Win everybody's self-determination. So, and that's one of the reasons that we are here right now. Because we want to solve the problem of the revolution, not get somebody elected as such, solve the problem of the revolution. Now, where the crisis in this system is such that even the question of election is problematic. It's problematic because the work that we have done and others who have moved in this arena that they didn't want us to participate in the first place. They were bombing churches and doing all, then they say you can vote after they killed your organization. They killed the theory, the ideology and stuff that we would be voting for. They killed Malcolm, you know? Malcolm said what, the ballot or the bullet? The ballot, he said, you can't be satisfied with just the ballot. You got to get the ballot. If you can't get the ballot, then you got to have the bullet. And this is the trajectory that we've been on for a while, fighting for that. And so we have this situation today where we are going back into the electoral arena. I ran for office in 1972, I think it was. And the thing is that what they tried to shoot off of the ballot, we putting back on the ballot. When they kill the revolution, take the revolutionary philosophy, revolutionary ideas, revolutionary intent, aspirations of the people on the ballot. Reparation, pay us back. Pay us back. We say 400 years too long to owe anybody any damn thing. We repo people, right? We come take what belongs to us. And then just do it, but move masses of people because we're using the legal so-called democratic instruments that they created. They claim to be a democracy because people can vote. After they make sure you ain't got nothing to vote for. You ain't got nobody to vote for, you can vote. So we use this democratic, and it's really important. So we come to this issue of elections, not just as some abstract right that you got. We come to this election using it as an ability to articulate, to organize, to win masses of people to participation in achieving their aspirations for freedom. We created institutions that negate the power and authority of the colonized. That's why we're in this building right now. We don't just create this to have a building. We don't just create the Black Power blueprint just to have some program. The objective is to negate the political and economic authority of the colonizer in anti-colonial work. You can put that on the ballot. You understand? That's what we want to do. We want to put anti-colonial activity programs on the ballot. Let's vote for it. Let's get African people to vote for it. And when they try to kill us and try to destroy us, then it becomes clear that they're working against what they say they believe in. And Africans come to understand that they don't want you to have it under any circumstances. Why participation in elections? One reason you participate in an election because people never try to solve a problem the hard way. Everybody looks for the easy way to solve the problem. So you say, okay, let's vote. And you go and vote, and they steal your elections, they shoot your leaders, they do all kinds of things to make it impossible for you to do that. You keep doing this, you keep upping the ante, using the electoral process, using the democratic mechanism that they say they have created for the people. If we put them in a situation where they say, well, voting's all right for everybody but niggas. That's all right too. Say it, damn it. Say it. Don't come saying that you're attacking me because you think I work for Russians. You attacking me because I don't work for you. That's the thing it is. That's what it's all about. So this is, and then bring massive working class people into this project. People who in the communities, people who living in dodging the police on a regular basis. It ain't no abstract discussion for people in the community. When they attacked, our first time a year or so ago, I came to St. Petersburg to the house that they attacked while I was gone. And I'm talking to the neighbors. It was really interesting because I said, did y'all get any videos? They said, no, man, we ain't get no videos. That when we heard them out there, we thought they was coming for us. You understand? And that's what we live with on a daily basis, and Black people live with this all the time. All our communities under assault like that. Same thing happened in St. Louis. In St. Louis, people under the bed. The young boy across the street from my house here in St. Petersburg, he's 16 years old. He said he woke up his dad and said, Daddy, I'm going to jail. He thought this little reefer that he'd been smoking or something like that, that was the reason he was under attack. But the truth is that our communities, that's what colonialism is. So finally, just want to say this. We live not just under colonialism. Colonialism is not simply a policy. It is a mode of production. And that's the missing ingredient and has been for the longest period of time. That's why you haven't been able to get along with your white left people. You know, the white leftists who's supposed to be on top of every question, but you can't find out what the hell is wrong with it because they tell me the workers this and the workers that, et cetera, but they never have the workers that have Black people's interests at the center of it. You have to fight them tooth and nail to make them do this. Why? Because it's a colonial mode of production. A colonial mode of production is characterized by parasitism. The colonizer and the colonized constitute the dialectic that you're looking at. And what Marx defined when he was given this description of what he characterized as the development of human society. And he talked about how the movement, and he was talking about Europe. I don't give a damn what y'all say. He was trying to solve a problem, and this don't mean that he was a bad person. He just couldn't see you. Except in, you know, I mean, we were the uncivilized. They would use those terms every now and then. They would mention some bad thing that was happening to us, but they didn't factor it into something of significance unto its own. It only had significance as it related to what they call the development of capitalism, which was of Europe. So they said, Marx asked the question, how the hell did capitalism come into being? He said that because in order to have capitalist production, there has to be a capitalist accumulation. In order to have capitalist accumulation, there has to be capitalist production. And so he said, how do we get out of this vicious circle? He said, the only way we can get out of here is to presuppose that there was an accumulation of capital that came before capitalist production. This accumulation of capital, he characterized as the primitive accumulation of capital. He said the primitive accumulation of capital was turning Africa into a warren for the commercial of hunting of black skins. He talked about what it meant to what he called East Indian. That's India that he's talking about in all the Americas, except he said also that what he characterized as wage slavery, the articulation of capitalism in Europe. Wage slavery, he said, in Europe requires as a pedestal slavery pure and simple in the New World. That's us. The whole white world has been resting on our backs. This is the primitive accumulation of capital he's talking about. This is a colonial mode of production. He couldn't see a mode of production until he was talking about Europe. You understand? This capitalism mode of production, feudalism mode of production. And then the bridge between feudalism and capitalism, according to him, was this primitive accumulation of capital. Didn't have nothing to do with us. Had nothing to do with us. It had all to do with the development of Europe. And this is the emergence of the white man. Was no white man before then. Was no Europe before then. Europe came into existence as a consequence of colonialism. And European consciousness was born through enslaving and killing people and colonizing the rest of the world. Anyway, I think it's important for us to understand that, because if you don't get that, you can't get to the core contradiction. You can't even understand why the white left don't have the right answers to any damn thing. They're militant as hell sometimes, you know, but this is why we even built the coalition. We were not going to let the white left tell us what was peace, what was anti-war. You don't tell us that. How in the hell were you ready to lay down your body to keep a tank from going to El Salvador, but the police riding through your community every goddamn day to get the man to shoot me? I don't see you laying down to stop the cops from coming to my community. I don't see you doing anything to deal with the oppression that happens to African people every day, because it's ubiquitous, because it comes with the package. It's normal. It's normal, see? So I want to say those things, and then I'm going to close. I'm glad to see Sister Nellie Bailey is on too. I know she's been having some serious issues, health issues with her eyes and stuff like that. And Nellie was one of the first out of the gate when it came, you know, to this Barack Hussein Obama. Some people like to pick at him, call him Barack Insane Obama. But I don't call him insane. I wish if he were crazy, we can forgive him. You understand? The fact is, he knows exactly what the hell he's doing and has always known what he's doing. So we want to, the electoral process has been primary to the democratic process of imposing neo-colonial solutions on our community. It's the electoral process. They didn't come and overthrow a government here. They say you can run to be the chief sellout. That's right. You can run for office, but you see what happens. This city, and this is my last example. This city where I grew up, I think it has a population maybe what 20%, maybe African, but even so. Africans couldn't get elected in the city for office. So they utilized what they call, how they characterize it, they organize the districts so that single member districts, so that if you got majority African population, people can run and get elected in that district, and you can have the appearance of having some democratic process. But what they did here is that if you're going to run for the districts, I think at one time there were maybe 7 or 8 districts, and Africans occupied maybe 3 of the 8 districts primarily. And what they did was they said that you run in your own district, people in your district, the one who elect you in the primary. But this is an election that is not based on, it's a, what do you call, party affiliation. So why you got a primary and then you're gonna have a general election after that? So you can run in the primary in your own district, and only people in your district can vote for you. But after the primary, you go to a general, and the top 2 people in the primary are going to be voted on, but everybody can vote on them. So if you got somebody who gets 3% the vote and 30, and somebody gets much more than that, those 2 still go into a general election. And then what that means is that the white people always get to decide who's going to be elected. So it tames Negroes who want to be able, you can't say nothing. You might be able to get through the primary by talking black talk and that kind of stuff, but the white system gonna work against you, the newspaper gonna work against you, the media gonna work against you, and the white money gonna work against you. So, because the white people are gonna be the ones who vote for you in the final night. So even if you come out all militant and everything, they're still gonna make a decision, but they're gonna make sure you're not militant because you're not gonna do anything that's gonna upset them in your campaign. This is the democracy that they're promoting, and this is the reason they had laser beams targeting devices in my chest on July 29th, the reason they've attacked us now. So I just wanted to say that this is more than simply an electoral school. It's more than teaching people how to run for office. We got enough Negroes who know how to run for office. And we got problems with these Negroes who have run for office and who are in office right now. They work against us. We help to take away the grant for our radio station, help to take away the ability of Black people to get community development block grant money right here in this city. Black elected officials did that. And Charles, I know you got New York, you got, what the hell we gonna talk about, Black elected officials. You got, there are people who held up the Congressional Black Caucus, this wonderful group and what have you. They all work against Black people. They all work against the peoples of the world, et cetera. So the objective is not just to get somebody elected, not just to teach techniques, although we want to do that, because some people in our class, some people the working class, some people, young people, they're intimidated by what they assume to be the difficulties in being able to run a campaign. You have to be real smart and what have you to do that. So we want to break that down. We want to challenge the monopoly that the ruling class has on this electoral process and allow people to be able to participate and run for office and put ideas on the ballot that the masses can have an opportunity to make decisions about. And that's why we've organized this the way we've done it. That's why to not be confused. The thing is that we have discussions around reparations. We have discussions around political prisoners. We have discussions around all these issues in the working group, health, and all this stuff. Why? We have discussions because we want to educate people. We have discussion about what's happening in the world so that people come, they're going to run for office. They're aware of what's happening in the world and what's happening in the community. They know about political prisoners. They know about these things that's in our working group meetings, et cetera, so that they can be well-rounded in terms of representing Black people and not just getting elected. Because the Democratic Party would do that for you. I guarantee you can get on the phone right now and ask the Democratic Party when they're having the next class school to teach you how to get elected. They'll do it for you. The thing that Soros is doing that now. I mean, many of the people who are even in trouble right now, Black people who, what do you call them, prosecutors, in trouble now because Soros funded them as a sort of a pressure relief valve to get something out there so that y'all won't turn against the justice system, injustice system. So they'll teach you how to do that, but they won't provide anti-colonial information. That's why we are talking now about anti-colonial struggle for democracy, anti-colonial struggle for democracy, and that's what it is. And we say the highest expression of democracy is self-determination. You ain't got no democracy if you ain't got no self-determination.